She said, "I want your child." But first the Apache woman had to know. If he was worthy, Ethan had always thought he understood what it meant to help people. He had grown up in a quiet town, surrounded by friendly faces and familiar routines. He had volunteered at local shelters, helped clean up parks, and even spent a summer teaching kids how to read. To him, helping was simple: show up, do the work, and leave feeling proud. But when he arrived on the Apache reservation in Arizona, he quickly realized he was not prepared for what he had stepped into. The reservation was not like the small towns he knew. It was wide and open, with long stretches of desert and rocky hills that looked like they had been carved by time itself. The air felt different, dry, warm, and full of quiet. Ethan felt both excited and nervous. He had come here through a volunteer program that promised cultural exchange, community work, and a chance to learn. He wanted to be useful, to make a real difference. On his first day, he met the program leader, a woman named Maria. She was kind and patient, but also strict about rules. She told Ethan that the reservation was a place of deep tradition and respect. Everything had meaning here: actions, words, even silence. "Listen more than you speak," she told him, "and do not pretend to understand if you do not." Ethan nodded, trying to look confident. He had been told similar things before, but here it felt serious, like a rule that could not be broken. His first assignment was to help clean the community center. It was an old building with worn floors and walls that had seen many years of gatherings, dances, and meetings. As Ethan walked in, he noticed pictures hanging on the walls. They showed people smiling, holding hands, and celebrating important moments. He felt a strange sense of respect, as if he was entering a place that held memories, not just a building. While he was sweeping the floor, an elderly man walked in. The man's face was weathered and calm, and his eyes looked like they had seen everything. Ethan tried to smile politely. "Hello," Ethan said. The man nodded slowly, not smiling back. He did not speak English right away, but he did not need to. Ethan could feel the man's quiet strength. He felt as if he was being judged, not in a harsh way, but in a way that demanded honesty. Later that day, Ethan attended a community gathering. People were dressed in traditional clothing, and the air was filled with soft music and the sound of drums. The gathering felt sacred, not like a show or performance. Ethan watched from the back, unsure where to stand or what to do. He felt like an outsider, a stranger in a place where everyone else belonged. Then he saw her. Nayeli stood near the center of the gathering, wearing a simple dress and a calm expression. She looked strong, but not in a loud way. Her eyes were dark and focused, and her posture showed confidence. Ethan noticed her because she seemed to be watching everything, not in a curious way, but in a careful way, like someone who knew the meaning behind every action. Ethan felt a sudden, strange feeling in his chest. He did not know her, but he felt as if he had been noticed by someone important. He tried to keep his attention on the ceremony, but he kept catching glimpses of her in the crowd. She looked at him once, then looked away, as if she did not want to be seen. After the gathering, people began to talk and laugh. Ethan stood by the edge, not sure what to do. He wanted to be friendly, but he did not want to make a mistake. He watched as families gathered together, hugging and speaking softly. Then he felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned around quickly, expecting a friendly greeting, but it was Nayeli. She looked at him with calm eyes, and for a moment Ethan felt like he had stopped breathing. She was not smiling, but she did not look angry. She looked curious. "Hello," she said, in a clear voice. Ethan tried to respond, but his voice sounded small. "Hi," he said. "I'm Ethan. I'm here to volunteer." Nayeli nodded slowly. She did not seem impressed. She did not smile. "I know," she said. "You are the one who came from far away." Ethan was surprised. "You know me?" Nayeli's eyes moved over him, as if she was reading him like a book. "I know the kind of people who come here," she said. "They think they want to help, but they do not understand what it means to be here." Ethan felt a little embarrassed. He had not expected to be challenged so quickly. He wanted to defend himself, to explain that he truly wanted to help. "I do want to help," he said. "I want to learn. I want to be useful." Nayeli looked at him for a long moment. Then she said something that made Ethan feel his heart drop. "I want your child." Ethan stared at her, unable to speak. He thought it was a joke. Maybe she was teasing him. But her face did not change. She was serious. Her eyes were calm and steady. He tried to laugh, but the laugh sounded wrong. He cleared his throat, trying to find the right words. "Sorry, I don't understand," he said. "What do you mean?" Nayeli looked at him like she was tired of explaining something simple. "I mean, I want your child," she repeated. "But first, I need to know if you are worthy." Ethan's mind raced. His heart began to beat faster. He felt a wave of confusion and fear. He had come here to volunteer, to help, to learn. He did not come here to be tested or judged. He did not come here to be told he might be a father. He tried to speak, but the words did not come. He felt like he had been pushed into a deep, dark water where he could not find the surface. Nayeli continued, as if she was speaking to someone who had already agreed to listen. "In my family, we do not take children lightly," she said. "A child is not a possession. A child is a responsibility. A child is a life, and a life must be protected." Ethan nodded slowly, trying to understand. He did not know how to respond. He wanted to say something kind, something respectful, but he felt trapped. Nayeli's voice softened slightly, but her eyes stayed strong. "You are new here," she said. "You do not know our ways, but you are here now. So I will give you a chance to show who you are." Ethan swallowed hard. "A chance to show what?" Nayeli looked at him directly. "To show if you can be trusted," she said. "To show if you can be responsible. To show if you can respect what is important to us." Ethan felt his cheeks burn. He did not like the idea of being tested. He did not like the idea of being judged. But he also felt something else, a strange respect for her honesty. She was not pretending. She was not being fake or polite. She was telling the truth. He realized that he had never been challenged like this before. He had always been accepted because he was kind, because he tried hard, because he was willing to help. But here, kindness was not enough. Here, he would have to prove something deeper. "What do I have to do?" he asked quietly. Nayeli's expression did not change. She seemed to expect the question. "You will follow me," she said. "You will watch. You will listen. You will work. And you will show me your heart." Ethan nodded slowly. He felt nervous, but also strangely excited. He did not know what he was getting into, but he felt that his life was about to change. Nayeli turned and walked away. She did not look back. Ethan stood there for a moment, feeling the desert air on his skin, feeling the weight of her words in his chest. He had come to the reservation to help. He had come to learn. But now he realized that he was the one being tested. He was the one being watched. And somewhere inside him, a new feeling began to grow. Something like determination. Something like hope. He did not know if he would pass the test. He did not know what Nayeli wanted from him. But he knew one thing. He could not leave. Not now. Not after hearing those words. Not after feeling the strange pull of this place, this culture, and this woman who had seen through him with one calm look. Ethan took a deep breath and followed her, stepping into a future he could not yet understand. Ethan followed Nayeli through the dusty path behind the community center. The sun was high, and the heat made the air feel heavy. The land looked empty at first, but Ethan soon realized it was full of life. There were small plants growing between rocks, birds flying above, and a quiet strength in the way the land stayed still and calm. He felt a strange feeling of peace, mixed with nervousness. Nayeli walked with confidence, not looking back. Ethan tried to keep up, but he was careful not to rush or look too eager. He knew that she was not leading him as a friend. She was leading him like a teacher, and he was the student. They reached a small house near the edge of the reservation. It was not fancy, but it was clean and strong. A few children were playing nearby, laughing and running. An older woman sat on the porch, weaving a small basket. She looked up when they arrived, and her eyes studied Ethan quickly. Nayeli spoke to her in her language, and Ethan did not understand the words, but he could feel the respect in her voice. The older woman nodded and then turned back to her weaving. Nayeli led Ethan inside. The house smelled like warm bread and dry wood. The walls were decorated with small handmade items. Ethan felt like he was stepping into a family home, not just a place where someone lived. He felt a bit out of place. Nayeli sat down at a table and gestured for Ethan to sit across from her. She took a deep breath and began to speak slowly, as if choosing each word carefully. "You want to help?" she said. Ethan nodded. "Yes. I want to learn. I want to do what I can." Nayeli looked at him for a moment, and then she said, "But you do not know what it means to live here." Ethan felt a small sting in his chest. He wanted to argue, to say that he was trying, but he knew she was right. He did not know the land. He did not know the traditions. He did not know the people. But he had come here with good intentions. But good intentions were not the same as understanding. Nayeli continued. "In our way, we do not take things lightly. We do not rush. We do not waste time. Everything has meaning." Ethan listened carefully. He did not want to make another mistake. Nayeli then explained the rules of her test. It was not a test of strength or a test of courage. It was a test of character. She wanted to see if Ethan could be patient, respectful, and responsible. She wanted to see if he could be trusted. She told him that he would start with simple tasks, but she also warned him that the tasks would not stay simple. The real test was how he reacted when things got difficult. Ethan felt his heart beat faster. He was ready to accept the challenge, but he was not sure if he could pass. Nayeli gave him his first task. "You will help the elders," she said. "You will listen to their stories. You will learn what they have to teach. You will not interrupt. You will not argue. You will simply listen." Ethan nodded. He felt honored, and nervous at the same time. He had always thought listening was easy, but he soon realized it was not. The next day, Ethan was brought to a small gathering of elders. They sat in a circle in a shaded area, and they spoke quietly. Their voices were calm, but there was a strength in them. They talked about the land, about family, about the history of their people. Ethan tried to listen carefully. At first, he felt confused. The stories were not like the history lessons he had learned in school. They were not full of facts and dates. They were full of feelings and meaning. The elders spoke about loss, about survival, about the importance of keeping traditions alive. They spoke about respect for the land and respect for one another. Ethan felt a deep respect growing inside him. He realized that these stories were not just stories. They were a way of teaching, a way of passing down knowledge from one generation to the next. But listening was harder than he expected. Ethan had grown up in a world where people spoke fast and interrupted each other. Here, silence was important. People did not speak unless they had something meaningful to say. Ethan felt the weight of his own thoughts, and he struggled to keep them inside. At one point, an elder spoke about a time when the reservation had faced a difficult challenge. He spoke about how the community came together and worked as one. Ethan wanted to ask a question to show that he was paying attention. But he remembered Nayeli's words, "Do not interrupt." So he stayed quiet. After the gathering, the elders stood up and began to leave. Ethan felt a sense of relief, but also a feeling of accomplishment. He had not interrupted. He had listened. He had learned something important. But the next task was even harder. Nayeli told him that he would help repair a community building. It was old and damaged. The roof had leaks, and the walls were cracked. It needed a lot of work. Ethan was excited at first. He had always enjoyed physical work. He thought he could handle it. But when he arrived, he realized the work was more difficult than he imagined. The building was old, and the materials were heavy. The heat made the work tiring. And the people working there moved with a quiet speed, not rushing, but not wasting a moment. Ethan tried to help, but he made mistakes. He lifted the wrong boards, used the wrong tools, and even dropped a heavy piece of wood. He felt embarrassed. He could feel the eyes of the others on him. He wanted to do better, but he did not know how. Nayeli watched him from a distance. She did not rush to help him. She did not speak to him. She simply watched. Ethan felt frustrated. He wanted to prove himself. He wanted to show that he was capable, but the more he tried, the more he failed. At one point, a man working nearby spoke to him. "You should not rush," the man said quietly. "You must move with the land." Ethan nodded, but he did not fully understand. What did it mean to move with the land? He had always thought that speed was important. But here, speed was not the goal, respect was. As the day went on, Ethan began to slow down. He stopped rushing. He started watching the others carefully. He noticed how they moved with purpose, how they took time to make sure everything was done right. He began to understand that this was not a race. This was a responsibility. By the end of the day, the work was still not finished. Ethan felt tired, but he also felt something else, a sense of growth. He realized that he had been too proud. He had thought he could do everything right from the start, but he was learning that real work was not about showing off. It was about doing what was needed, even if it took time. That night, Ethan returned to the small house where Nayeli lived. The air was cooler now, and the sky was full of stars. The land felt quiet and calm, like it was listening. Nayeli sat on the porch, looking at the stars. Ethan approached slowly. "You did not speak today," she said. Ethan felt surprised. He had not realized he was being watched so closely.
"I was listening," he said quietly.
Nayeli nodded. "Listening is good," she said, "but listening is not enough. You must understand." Ethan looked down. He felt the weight of her words. "I am trying," he said. "I really am." Nayeli looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "You are still learning, but you are not giving up." Ethan felt a small sense of relief. He had worried that he had failed, but her words gave him hope. Nayeli stood up and walked inside. Ethan followed her, and for the first time he felt that he was not just a visitor. He felt that he was becoming part of something bigger. As he lay down to sleep that night, Ethan thought about the day. He thought about the elders, the work, and the quiet lessons he had learned. He realized that Nayeli's test was not about winning or losing. It was about becoming a better person, and he understood something else. If he wanted to earn her trust, he would need to continue learning, continue listening, and continue growing. He did not know what the next day would bring, but he knew one thing for sure. He could not go back to the person he was before. Ethan woke up before the sun. The sky was still dark, but the air already felt warm. He sat up slowly and looked around the small room. The house was quiet, and he could hear the soft sound of the wind outside. For a moment, he felt calm. But then he remembered what Nayeli had said. The test was not over. The real test was not just about work or listening, it was about how he acted when things got difficult. He stepped outside and saw Nayeli already moving. She was collecting water in a bucket and walking toward a small garden. Ethan followed quietly, trying not to disturb her. The garden was simple, but it looked cared for. There were small plants growing in neat rows. The land around it was dry, but the garden still looked alive. Nayeli stopped and looked at the plants. She touched the soil gently with her fingers. Ethan watched her, feeling a strange respect. She did not rush. She did not hurry. She moved with purpose, like every action mattered. Ethan realized that this was another lesson. In the reservation, everything had meaning. Even a small garden was important. Nayeli turned to him. "Today you will learn about patience," she said. Ethan nodded. "I'm ready." Nayeli raised her eyebrows. "Are you?" Ethan felt a small laugh inside him, but he kept his face serious. He knew she was not asking for a joke. She was asking if he was truly ready to change. They worked in the garden for a long time. Ethan watered the plants, pulled weeds, and helped Nayeli prepare the soil. It was simple work, but it was not easy. The sun was strong and the land was hard. Ethan felt tired quickly. He wanted to take breaks, to sit down, to rest. But Nayeli did not stop. She kept working, quietly and steadily. Ethan tried to keep up, but he felt his strength fading. He looked at Nayeli and realized something important. She was not just strong in her body, she was strong in her mind. She could work all day without complaining. She did not need to show off. She simply did what needed to be done. Ethan started to understand why she had chosen this test. Patience was not just waiting. It was choosing to keep going even when it was hard. It was choosing to do the right thing, even when no one was watching. By midday, Ethan's arms felt heavy. His back ached. He felt the heat on his skin. He began to feel angry at himself. Why was this so hard? Why did he feel so tired? In his old life, he had never worked like this. He had always had an easy way out. If he was tired, he would stop. If something was difficult, he would choose something easier. But here, there was no easier option. Nayeli noticed his struggle. She did not say anything at first. She simply continued her work. But then she stopped and looked at him. "You are thinking about quitting," she said. Ethan felt surprised. He did not want to admit it, but it was true. He had thought about quitting, even if only for a moment. "I am not quitting," Ethan said quickly, trying to sound strong. Nayeli nodded slowly. "You will be honest with me," she said. "You will not hide your thoughts. You will not pretend." Ethan felt a sting of shame. He realized she was not just testing his strength, she was testing his honesty. She wanted to see if he could be honest about his feelings, even when they were not good. Ethan took a deep breath. "I am tired," he said. "I want to rest." Nayeli looked at him for a moment, and then she nodded. "Rest," she said, "but you will not stop. You will rest and then continue." Ethan sat down under a small tree. He drank water and tried to calm his breathing. The shade felt cool and peaceful. For a moment, he allowed himself to feel the exhaustion. But then he remembered the elders. He remembered the work at the community center. He remembered the feeling of being watched. He remembered the words, "I want your child. But first, you must be worthy." He realized that this was not just a test of strength. It was a test of his ability to stay committed. After a short rest, Ethan stood up and continued working. The sun was still high, but he kept going. He pulled weeds, watered plants, and helped Nayeli move heavy stones. He did not rush. He did not complain. He simply kept going. Later, they finished the garden. It looked better than before. The plants were arranged neatly, and the soil looked cared for. Ethan felt a sense of pride, but it was not the kind of pride he had felt before. This pride was quiet. It was a calm feeling of having done something important. Nayeli looked at the garden and nodded. "You did well," she said. Ethan felt relief. He had wanted her approval, even if he didn't want to admit it. But Nayeli did not smile. She did not give him praise in a way that made him feel comfortable. She simply looked at him and said, "You are learning, but the next test will be harder." Ethan's stomach tightened. He felt nervous. He wanted to ask what the next test was, but he did not. He knew she would tell him when the time was right. That evening, the community held a small gathering. It was not a big ceremony, but it was important. People sat together, shared food, and spoke softly. Ethan was invited to join. He felt honored, but also nervous. He did not want to make a mistake. He sat down carefully and watched the people around him. He saw families talking, children playing, and elders sharing stories. He felt the warmth of the community, and for the first time, he felt like he belonged. Nayeli sat beside him, but she did not speak. She simply watched him. Ethan felt a strange comfort in her silence. He realized that she was not ignoring him. She was giving him space to grow. A young boy ran past them and accidentally bumped into Ethan. Ethan reached out to steady him, and the boy smiled. Ethan felt a small happiness. He realized that he was beginning to connect with the people here. He was no longer just a visitor. He was becoming part of the community, but the feeling of happiness did not last long. Ethan noticed a woman standing nearby, looking at him with a serious expression. She seemed to be watching him carefully. Ethan felt uneasy. The woman approached them slowly. She looked older than Naeli, but she had the same calm strength in her eyes. Ethan recognized her as one of the elders. She stopped in front of Ethan and spoke to Naeli in their language. Ethan could not understand the words, but he could feel the tone. It was serious, but not angry. Naeli listened quietly. Then she turned to Ethan and said, "The elders want to speak with you tomorrow." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He did not know what to expect. He felt both scared and curious. "What do they want?" he asked. Naeli looked at him carefully. "They want to know who you are," she said. "They want to see if you are honest. They want to see if you are ready." Ethan nodded slowly. He felt nervous, but he also felt determined. He had come this far. He could not turn back now. That night, as Ethan lay in bed, he thought about the day. He thought about the garden, the gathering, and the elders. He realized that he was learning something important. The test was not just about work or strength. It was about becoming a better person. He understood that Naeli's words were not a threat. They were a challenge. She was asking him to prove that he was willing to change, to learn, and to be responsible. Ethan closed his eyes and made a promise to himself. He would not give up. He would continue to learn. He would continue to listen. And he would continue to grow. Because he knew one thing for sure. If he wanted to be worthy, he had to become someone worthy. And he was ready to try. Ethan woke up feeling nervous. The sun was still low in the sky and the air felt cool. He sat on the edge of his bed and thought about the elders. He had never met a group of people who watched him so closely. He had never felt so judged. Yet he also felt strangely accepted. It was confusing. He tried to eat breakfast, but his stomach felt empty. He was not hungry. Instead, he was thinking about what the elders might ask him. He wondered if he would be able to answer. He wondered if he had made a mistake by coming here. He wondered if he would fail. Naeli arrived at his room quietly. She did not knock. She simply opened the door and looked at him. "Get ready," she said. Ethan nodded. He stood up and followed her outside. The sky was bright now, and the sun was rising. The reservation looked calm and peaceful, but Ethan felt a storm inside him. He tried to keep his face calm, but he could feel his hands shaking slightly. Naeli led him to a small building where the elders met. The building was simple, with wooden walls and a roof that had seen many years. When they entered, Ethan saw the elders sitting in a circle. They looked serious, but not angry. They looked like they were waiting for something important. Ethan's heart began to beat faster. He felt the weight of their eyes on him. Naeli stood beside him and introduced him to the elders. She spoke in her language, and then she turned to Ethan. "They want to speak with you," she said softly. Ethan nodded. He tried to smile, but his smile felt forced. The elders did not speak at first. They simply looked at him. Their silence felt heavy, like a lesson in itself. Ethan realized that in this place, silence was not empty. Silence had meaning. Finally, one of the elders spoke. She was a woman with silver hair and calm eyes. Her voice was gentle, but it carried power. "Why are you here?" she asked. Ethan took a deep breath. He had thought about this question, but now that he was facing it, he felt unsure. "I came to help," he said. "I came to learn. I came to understand your culture." The elder nodded slowly. "But why do you want to understand?" she asked. "Is it because you want to feel better about yourself?" Or because you truly respect our people? Ethan felt a sting in his chest. He did not want to lie. He did not want to pretend. He thought for a moment, and then he spoke honestly. I think it is both, he said. At first, I wanted to feel like I was doing something good. But now, I see that this is more than that. I respect your people. I respect your traditions. I want to be part of something real. The elders listened quietly. Ethan felt a small sense of relief. He had been honest. He had not tried to hide his true feelings. Then another elder spoke. He was a man with strong hands and a calm voice. You have made mistakes, he said. You have made mistakes because you did not understand. But you have also learned. You have listened. You have worked. You have not given up. Ethan felt surprised. He had expected the elders to be harsh, but their words were not harsh. They were honest. The elder continued, the test is not to see if you are perfect. The test is to see if you are willing to grow. Ethan nodded slowly. He felt his eyes burn with emotion. He had never been told that before. He had always believed that he had to be perfect to be accepted. But here he was being told that growth was what mattered. The elders then asked him more questions. They asked about his family. They asked about his life. They asked about his dreams and fears. Ethan answered honestly. He told them about his parents, about his work, about his hopes for the future. At one point, one elder asked him, "What do you fear the most?" Ethan thought for a moment. He did not want to lie. He wanted to be honest. I fear that I will leave, he said. I fear that I will go back to my old life and forget what I have learned here. I fear that I will choose comfort over responsibility. The elders listened. Ethan could feel their attention. He realized that they were not trying to trap him. They were trying to understand him. After a long time, the elders stood up. The meeting was over. Ethan felt both relief and sadness. He wanted to know if he had passed. He wanted to know what they thought. Nayeli walked beside him as they left the building. Ethan felt nervous. He looked at her, hoping to see a sign. What did they say? He asked quietly. Nayeli looked at him for a moment, and then she said, They said you are still learning, but they also said you have the heart to continue. Ethan felt a small smile. He felt a sense of hope. He felt that he was moving forward. But then, Nayeli's face changed. Her expression became serious again. The next test is not about work, she said. It is about trust. Ethan's stomach tightened. He did not know what she meant. Nayeli continued. Tomorrow we will go to the river. You will not know what will happen, but you must be ready. You must trust yourself. You must trust the land. Ethan nodded slowly. He did not fully understand, but he knew he had to be ready. That night, Ethan could not sleep. He lay in bed and thought about the elders' words. He thought about the fear he had shared. He thought about his promise to himself. He wondered if he was truly worthy. He also thought about Nayeli. He realized that he was beginning to care about her. He did not know if it was love yet, but he felt something strong. He felt that she had changed him. She had pushed him to be better. She had shown him a life that was deeper than his own. Ethan wondered if she felt the same. He wondered if she saw him as someone who could stay. He wondered if she saw him as someone who could be trusted. He did not know. The next morning, Nayeli woke him early again. She did not speak much. She simply packed a small bag with water and food. Ethan watched her, feeling nervous and curious. He wondered what would happen at the river. They walked for a long time. The land was open and wide. and the sky looked endless. The sun was bright, and the air felt dry. Ethan felt his feet becoming tired, but he kept walking. He did not want to show weakness. Finally, they reached the river. It was not a large river, but it was strong and clear. The water moved quickly, and the sound of it filled the air. Nayeli stopped at the edge and looked at the water. She turned to Ethan. "This is where we test your trust," she said. Ethan looked at her. "How?" he asked. Nayeli smiled slightly. "You will see," she said. Ethan felt his heart beat faster. He watched as Nayeli stepped into the water. The river was cold, but she did not seem to mind. She walked slowly, as if she was familiar with it. Then she turned and looked at Ethan. "Come," she said. Ethan hesitated. He looked at the water and felt fear. He was not sure if he could cross. The river looked strong. The current looked dangerous. But he also knew he could not refuse. He had come this far. He had to trust her. He stepped into the water. The cold hit him immediately. He felt his breath catch. The water was strong, and it pushed against his legs. Ethan struggled for a moment, but he kept moving. Nayeli stayed beside him, guiding him. Ethan felt fear, but he also felt something else. He felt alive. He felt that he was doing something important. He felt that he was proving something to himself. They reached the other side. Ethan stood there, shaking. His clothes were wet, and his body felt cold. But he also felt proud. Nayeli looked at him. "You trusted the river," she said. "You trusted yourself." Ethan nodded. He felt his heart beating fast. He looked at her and realized that this was not just a test. It was a lesson. He understood that trust was not just about believing in someone else. It was also about believing in yourself. It was about knowing that you could face fear and still move forward. Nayeli helped him dry off, and they walked back to the reservation. Ethan felt changed. He felt like he had crossed something more than a river. He felt like he had crossed a line inside himself. When they returned, Nayeli did not speak much. She simply looked at him with calm eyes. Ethan felt a deep sense of respect. He realized that he was not just learning. He was becoming someone new, and he knew that the final test was still ahead. He was ready, but he also felt the weight of the future. He did not know what would happen next. He did not know if he would be accepted. He did not know if he would be worthy, but he was not afraid anymore. He was determined, and he was ready to face whatever came next. Ethan woke up early again, but this time the feeling inside him was different. It was not fear. It was not nervousness. It was a quiet strength. He felt like he had crossed something inside himself. He had trusted the river. He had faced his fear. He had proved to himself that he could do hard things. He sat on the edge of his bed and looked out the window. The sun was rising slowly, painting the sky in soft colors. The land outside looked calm and beautiful. Ethan felt a new kind of peace. He knew that the final test was coming. He did not know what it would be, but he was ready. Nayeli came to him and said, "Today you will meet my family." Ethan's heart jumped. Meeting her family felt like a big step. It meant he was not just a visitor anymore. It meant he was becoming part of her life. He nodded slowly. "I am ready," he said. They walked to a small home near the center of the reservation. The house was simple, but it felt warm and welcoming. Ethan could hear voices inside. He could hear laughter and soft talking. He felt nervous again. But this time, the nervousness felt different. It felt like the nervousness you feel before something important, like a performance or a speech. Nayeli opened the door and stepped inside. Ethan followed. The room was filled with people. There were children playing on the floor. There were adults talking quietly. There were elders sitting in chairs, watching everyone with calm eyes. The room smelled like food and warm bread. Everyone stopped and looked at Ethan. He felt the weight of their attention. He felt like he was being measured, judged, and watched. Nayeli walked to the center of the room and spoke to the people in her language. Ethan could not understand the words, but he could feel the tone. It sounded respectful and calm. After she finished speaking, she turned to Ethan. "This is my family," she said softly. Ethan nodded. He tried to smile, but he felt nervous. He wanted to make a good impression. He wanted to show them that he was respectful and honest. One of the elders, a woman with kind eyes, stood up. She walked toward Ethan and held out her hand. "Welcome," she said in English. Ethan took her hand carefully. He felt a small warmth in her touch. She looked at him closely as if she was trying to see inside him. "Thank you," Ethan said. The elders smiled gently. "We know why you are here," she said. "We know why Nayeli brought you. But we need to know if you are truly ready." Ethan felt his heart beat faster. He nodded slowly. "I am ready," he said. "I want to be part of your family. I want to learn. I want to help. I want to be responsible." The elder nodded slowly. "Good," she said. "But you must understand something. Being part of our family is not a gift. It is a responsibility. It is a promise. It is a life." Ethan felt the words sink into him. He realized that this was the final test. The elders were not looking for a man who was strong or brave. They were looking for a man who was ready to live a life of responsibility. Nayeli's mother, the elder who had spoken to him, sat down and looked at him with calm eyes. "We have watched you," she said. "We have watched how you work. We have watched how you listen. We have watched how you face fear. But there is one question we must ask." Ethan listened carefully. He felt his heart beating fast. The elder continued, "If you were to leave tomorrow, would you still remember what you have learned? Would you still respect our people? Would you still honor the promise you made to yourself?" Ethan felt his mind race. He thought about his life back home. He thought about his friends, his family, his old routines. He thought about the comfort he had always known. He thought about how easy it would be to go back. But he also thought about the land. He thought about the elders. He thought about Nayeli. He thought about the lessons he had learned. He realized that he did not want to go back to his old life. He did not want to forget what he had learned. He did not want to lose the person he was becoming. He took a deep breath and spoke honestly. "I will remember," he said. "I will honor what I have learned. I will not forget. I will not go back to my old life. I will choose this life." The room went quiet. Ethan felt the weight of the silence. He wondered if he had said the right words. He wondered if he had passed. Then Nayeli's mother smiled. It was a small smile, but it was full of meaning. "Then you are ready," she said. Ethan felt a wave of relief. He felt tears in his eyes, but he did not cry. He felt like he had finally been accepted. Nayeli stood beside him and looked at him with calm eyes. For the first time, she smiled. "You have done well," she said softly. Ethan felt his heart warm. He felt a deep sense of gratitude. He realized that Nayeli had not been testing him to be cruel. She had been testing him because she wanted to protect what she cared about. She wanted to make sure that if he stayed, he would stay for the right reasons. After the meeting, the family shared a meal together. Ethan sat at the table and listened to the stories. He watched the children laugh. He watched the elders speak. He felt a sense of belonging. He realized that this was what he had been searching for all his life. He had been searching for a place where he felt connected, where he felt meaningful. He had been searching for a life that mattered. And he had found it. Later that night, after the family had gone to bed, Ethan and Nayeli walked outside. The sky was full of stars and the air was cool and calm. They sat on a small hill and looked at the land. Ethan turned to Nayeli. "Thank you," he said. Nayeli looked at him. "For what?" she asked. "For everything," Ethan said. "For teaching me, for testing me, for showing me what it means to be responsible." Nayeli was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You did it yourself. You chose to change. You chose to stay." Ethan nodded. He felt a deep sense of pride. But he also felt a deep sense of humility. He knew that he still had much to learn. He knew that life here would not always be easy. He knew that responsibility would not end. But he also knew that he was ready. Nayeli looked at him with a serious expression. "There is one more thing," she said. Ethan felt his heart beat faster. "What?" he asked. Nayeli took a deep breath. "If you want to stay, you must understand that a child is not just a baby," she said. "A child is a life. It is a promise. It is a future. If you want my child, you must be ready to love, to protect, and to guide." Ethan looked at her carefully. He nodded slowly. "I understand," he said. "I am ready." Nayeli looked at him for a moment. Then she reached out and took his hand. She held it gently, like a promise. The land around them was quiet. The stars shone brightly. Ethan felt a deep sense of peace. He knew that his life had changed forever. He had come here to help, but he had found something more. He had found a purpose. He had found a home. And he had found a love that was not easy, but real. As they sat together under the stars, Ethan felt a new future begin. A future built on respect, responsibility, and love. A future that he was ready to live.